They need to decide which side they're on and not serve this evil and continue to leak information out so we know exactly what is in this so-called food. Because in my opinion, in my view, stuff in a porta potty is better for you than the stuff you get at McDonald's. All right, well, that's the analysis and breakdown tonight. We're teleprompter-free news. We go off real research and real history. If McDonald's wants to reform itself, that would be great. But offering grapes, with the Happy Meals isn't going to do it. Not as long as Bill Gates is at the head of their board. As long as Monsanto is involved and Bill Gates are involved, they work for Satan as far as I can tell. All right, I'm Alex Jones signing off for InfoWars Nightly News. And don't forget, if you're watching this transmission, you are the resistance. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.
Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder. Backed by FDA-approved Phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water, ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. Take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
As the last of the reported Ebola cases here in the U.S. are being given the all clear, we're getting reports of Ebola cases on the rise in Western Sierra Leone. They're reporting more than 20 deaths a day occurring there. And in lieu of a travel ban, new restrictions on air travel are going to see travelers coming from Ebola-stricken countries restricted to just 5 U.S. airports. This will start Wednesday. Travelers who are coming from any of these Ebola-affected regions will have to land in New York, Chicago, Newark, Washington, and Atlanta. They'll have enhanced screening procedures, which include taking temperatures, inquiring about travel history, and looking for symptoms of the disease, which that doesn't seem very enhanced to me. And of course, there is no word yet on any monitoring that they're going to be doing for these travelers once they leave the airport. Now, not only does Obama's new Ebola czar not have any medical training, he's also a big fan of population control, which Klain called a top leadership issue that's challenging the world today in a recent interview.
I think the top leadership issue challenging our world today is how to deal with a continuing growing population in the world and all the resource demands it places on the world, and burgeoning populations in Africa and Asia that lack the resources to have a healthy, happy life. And I think we've got to find a way to make the world work for everyone.
If everybody's raising living standards to the point where everybody's got a car and everybody's got air conditioning and everybody's got a big house, well, the planet will boil over.
So, of course, that's only going to add fuel to the fire, as a lot of West Africans are putting a lot of mistrust in the government being there in the first place. And now some scientists are saying that Ebola can go airborne, but it just hasn't in West Africa because it's too warm. Now, these are referring to 2 studies by U.S. Army scientists that show Ebola can spread by air in cold, dry weather, which is common to the U.S. A 1995 study entitled Lethal Experimental Infections of Rhesus Monkeys by Aerosolized Ebola Virus. It reported Ebola virus sensitivity to high temperatures and humidity, which is what you'll see in southern Sudan and northern Zaire, may have been a factor that's limiting aerosol transmission of Ebola virus in the African epidemics. Both elevated temperature and relative humidity have been shown to reduce aerosol stability of these viruses. Now, the study also referred to the 1989 Ebola outbreak at a primate quarantine facility in Western Virginia, and this is where the virus rapidly spread between unconnected rooms. Interesting to note that that study took place in December of 1989, where it's likely that temperatures in Reston were below freezing. And this study is also similar to another one that was done in 2012, which exposed monkeys to an airborne filovirus, which is also similar to Ebola. And it concluded that while no strong evidence of secondary transmission by aerosol, they say it is possible in lower temperatures, which are not a factor in these warmer climates. So this study also points out that they have stability in aerosol form, which is comparable to influenza. And the Pentagon obviously took this threat of airborne filoviruses so seriously that it organized a medical countermeasures workshop with the Department of Health and Human Services in 2013. So here they're saying it is possible it could go airborne. It just needs colder temperatures, lower humidity, like we'll see in, I don't know, New York. But scientists working on weaponized Ebola. Where have we heard this before? Well, how about season 1 of The Walking Dead?
You know what this place is? We protected the public from very nasty stuff. Weaponized smallpox, Ebola strains that can wipe out half the country. Stuff you don't want getting out ever.
So obviously that's a little bit of fun there, thanks to one of our fans on Twitter that pointed us to that little bit of predictive programming. But let's be honest, we all know that the creators of The Walking Dead are just conspiracy theorists. Now, investigative journalist and former NSA contractor Wayne Madsen told Press TV on Monday that the militarized response to this Ebola crisis in West Africa was a little bit suspicious. And he said the latest Ebola outbreak may also be a resurfacing of an earlier infection that's linked to the CIA. Madsen said that we see a year when the U.S. was violating a Senate law forbidding the U.S. from engaging in a civil war there. Then they saw Zaire being used as a bait for the CIA. And then you saw the outbreak of Ebola there. And this is the same year that George H.W. Bush was the director of the CIA. And then in 1980, we saw the outbreak of HIV in Zaire and Angola, where the CIA was operating. And he said, what we need to see is an investigation of how intense the CIA biological warfare program was in Zaire and Angola between 1976 and 1980. And what has hit in Sierra Leone and other countries is the Zaire strain of Ebola. Now, Madsen said the militarization of the U.S. Ebola effort in West Africa is suspicious, saying it's very peculiar that the U.S. is sending the military in when obviously health workers, doctors, and other healthcare professionals are what is needed. And while other media outlets are there trying to downplay the Ebola outbreak, and they're in a flurry trying to discredit sites like INFOWARS, who would dare suggest that Ebola has been studied for its use as a potential bioweapon, know this: CIA and U.S. military involvement in testing for biological pathogens as weapons is highly documented. Thank you for tuning in to the show tonight. If you're watching us on YouTube, please become a subscriber to the Alex Jones channel, and then head over to Prison Planet TV, where you can become a subscriber. And yes, you will get access to a lot more information than what you can actually find on YouTube. That is the benefit of being a Prison Planet TV member. Plus, you help this operation. You can share your username and password with up to 11 friends at the same time. Now stick around after the news, because Alex Jones will be back with an in-depth Ebola report, and we'll see you here again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. City of Austin tap water versus filtered City of Austin tap water.
I can taste dirt in it.
God knows what's in this.
This has an aftertaste.
Tastes like Austin water? Yeah, it does. Ugh.
These people just sampled City of Austin tap water straight from the faucet. Next, we had them try a sample of tap water filtered through the ProPure G2.0 filtration system.
High quality H2O.
That one is better.
Tastes like nothing.
Yep, I know what good water tastes like. It's good water.
Most tap water contains added substances like fluoride, chlorine, Monsanto's deadly pesticide, glyphosate, and many others. Studies prove that these substances are linked to an assortment of major health issues, including tooth decay, lowered IQ, and even cancer.
It tastes like you're drinking out of the lake when you're drinking tap water.
Yeah, it has that processed flavor to it.
The ProPure G2.0 filtration system removes these deadly substances and many more, leaving only fresh-tasting, deliciously clean water.
Okay, this is very tasty.
It's good water. Refreshing.
It's good.
Go to InfoWarsStore.com today. Use promo code WATER and save 10% off your ProPure purchase. Again, that's InfoWarsStore.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
I'm Alex Jones. This is a breaking Ebola news update. In a moment, I'm going to break down some very important developments where the World Health Organization itself is now saying that the incubation period is not just 21 days, but can be up to 41 days. This was announced today, as it was also announced that they are releasing dozens and dozens of quarantine Americans who were around patient zero in Dallas only after 21 days of observation. And as more flights come into the United States from West Africa with people exhibiting signs of Ebola, it's clear that there is an attempt to whitewash and cover up exactly what's happening. But before we get into that, I want to just point out that INFOWARS.com, the nightly news, and everything we do here is about us trying to find out what's really happening, not coming at you with a preset agenda or view like the controlled left or controlled right and the state-run media does. I want to know what's really happening with Ebola. I want to know if there are things out there that could protect this country and protect my 3 children, just as you do. We're teleprompter free here, ladies and gentlemen. This is about really doing the analysis, really talking to a wide spectrum of experts and not trusting the system. And that's the good news. There are several polls out just this week. Public confidence in the CDC nosedives, CBS News reports in a major poll. Another story, 64% believe America is out of control. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, America is getting more and more out of control. But the good news is when African leaders come out and say that this Ebola could be weaponized, people really aren't laughing anymore. In fact, we have an article on InfoWars.com that has a BBC video in it. Secret project created weaponized Ebola in South Africa in the 1980s to be used against blacks to reduce their population. So the alternative media is now becoming the dominant media, and we go out and source real facts and what's already admitted, and the system calls us conspiracy theorists and attacks us in publications every day, and it has no effect other than boosting our credibility. The arrogant, dying dinosaur media still thinks that demonizing us is effective. It's not, ladies and gentlemen.
Alex Jones may sound crazy, but still has 300 million YouTube. He had 300 million people that have watched him on YouTube, and that sort of fringe, arch-conservative, deeply, I think, racist strain is being tapped into at crazy profit by people in the media.
Well, it is, and I think that the point you just made is the key thing, at crazy profit. These folks are getting paid to be racist.
Now shifting to the potentially bad news. The breaking info, CNN today, UN staffer dies of Ebola, monitoring ends for 43 in Texas. 43 people who came in contact with Ebola patient Thomas Eric Duncan are now officially cleared after not demonstrating any symptoms during a 21-day monitoring period. Here's the problem. The UN on its own World Health Organization website and other mainline virology sites state the same fact, say that Ebola can easily live for 41 days in the body and 70 days in the semen in a man's testicles. So they are releasing people who are around this Ebola patient, and he's already infected 2 nurses who could not exhibit signs for another 21 days. And this fits into the pattern of bringing in the West African flights when other nations ban it. When they're putting Ebola patients in regular hospitals, and the CDC told one of the nurses, doesn't matter if you treated an Ebola patient and you've got fever, go ahead and fly, honey. This is part of a pattern of trying to let Ebola get a foothold in this country so the CDC, FEMA, and NORTHCOM can engage in a giant domestic power grab of medical tyranny. The feds have been buying millions of firearms, billions of bullets and other forms of ammunition. They've been buying huge armored vehicles and deploying them in every city and digging in for biological catastrophe. I don't know if this